Thank you for joining us for the No Name Nonsense podcast. Today we have a very interesting topic. We are going to talk about underrated superhero movies. So these movies, I feel like are going to be underrated to us. Now, because I know some of y'all are going to be like, that's not underrated. That made this much amount of money. Everybody's so underrated to us when we say that when people think about great superhero movies, they don't get mentioned. Like an example for some people would be like Blade 1. Nobody really mentions how good Blade 1 or Blade 2 is when we talk about superhero movies because of how it's evolved. So, I'm going to start with DJ Tunes here. What would you have your...
Okay, I get to open it up.
Yeah. What do you get for your underrated superhero movies?
Please start this wonderful debate.
Alright, so I did a little bit of research just to go back in time, you know what I'm saying, make sure I do, my due diligence.
Right.
And
hopefully I didn't steal one of yours.
On selecting the correct film. You never know, man. We have quite similar tastes, you know what I'm saying, in some aspects. So, we may agree on this. But my number one underrated superhero film, Unbreakable.
Ooh.
Unbreakable.
That is a really good one. I think it's M. Night Shyamalan's best movie. Which is an
undercover superhero movie.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it is.
That's a really good one. Wow.
Actually one of my favorite, superhero movies of all time. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because we all know that what, the premise and concept of the movie was.
Right.
And it is truly a superhero movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow, I mean,
undercover, but nonetheless a superhero.
Again,
movie.
I say it's my favorite,
right.
my favorite M. Night Shyamalan.
We all went into that movie not realizing what we were going into, and it ended up being probably one of the most underrated superhero movies of all time.
Career kind of started going downhill from that movie. Because, you had The Sixth Sense and the Unbreakable, and then, like...
Bruce Willis?
Yeah, well, no, M. Night Shyamalan.
M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah. After that, he kind of... Sorry. Again, I love that movie. Wow, I'm surprised I didn't have that on my list. I love that movie.
Bro?
Oh, I love that movie.
You slept on that one.
Yeah, again, underrated, because I didn't even put it on my list.
Underrated.
Yeah.
You got any other ones?
Initially, it didn't come to mind until I started doing a deep dive and, into superhero movies. And I saw that one, and I was like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
Okay.
That's at the top of my list. And then the second one I had was Darkman. With Liam Neeson.
That was on my list. I love Darkman.
Yes, Darkman.
Directed and written by Sam Raimi.
Movie. Yeah, I didn't realize it was directed by Sam Raimi until I did my research on it.
Yeah, Liam Neeson before we knew him as the Liam Neeson we respect now.
I knew Liam Neeson was the lead, actor in the movie, but I had no idea that Sam Raimi directed it. Which directed the Spider-Man, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies.
Yep, that trilogy, which you forget about the third one because nobody liked the third one.
But dude, I was so shocked to see that the Spider-Man 3 was on a lot of top 10 lists of underrated superhero movies.
Well, you know what?
Like, what? Really?
One, the popularity of Venom is so high, so people kind of accepted it because the popularity of Venom is so high. And then
Venom's
two,
appearance in the movie,
you guys got to remember too, the age era of when it came out compared to some of the people who will respond to that. Mm-hmm. So most of us our age, we wouldn't respond to that list. Mm-mm. But if you are a 20-something, let's say 28, 29, Spider-Man 3 was right around when you probably started first going to the movie theaters. Yeah. That's probably one of the first movies you got to go in and, like, no parent, whatever. So, a lot of times it's these cycles where you notice that, like, movies get a lot more popular in the future when we're like, that movie was trash when we saw it. Yeah. But a younger generation sees it and goes, oh, this movie's dope.
Yeah,
and we
for
go,
sure.
well, why?
That was their first
because
taste.
they have the nostalgia that goes with it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a terrible movie. It's just the first two were so great.
Exactly.
That the third one just...
It didn't live up to their expectations.
Exactly.
Yeah, I wasn't feeling Spider-Man.
I mean, because for the longest time, I would make an argument that Spider-Man 2 was the best superhero movie of all time. For a very long time. I mean, I think up until more recently, I've backed off of that. But like...
Doc Ock was that dude.
Oh, yeah.
And that's rare about sequels because there's always been that stereotype of sequels bombing and just terrible after the original because of what happened with Superman.
Yeah.
And that just becomes with every single sequel that is out there. But now with these Batman movies, the sequels that just keep coming are starting to get better and better.
Yeah.
But hold that thought because y'all all know how I feel about Robert Pattinson playing the new Batman.
It's going to be good.
That's going to be bad.
What do you got? What's your underrated superhero movies?
Batman Forever.
Oh.
Go on. Justify it.
Yeah, please.
Justify your thoughts.
Oh, yes. because Batman Forever will always have a near and dear place in my heart. Don't laugh.
Okay, you get up, Glenn. Let you get off. Let you get off.
You were just like my husband because my husband
That's George
loves the
Clooney, right?
No.
No.
Val Kilmer.
No.
Val Kilmer?
Well, I mean,
Val
George Clooney was way
Kilmer.
worse. But
I mean,
the Val Kilmer.
but at least George Clooney was like, you know what I'm saying, the sexiest man alive for, you know, that, he was in his prime then. I can accept that
hold
from
on.
a female.
We're gonna get to that in a minute
Val
because
Kilmer?
I've got a story. Hold on, I've got a story about this whole thing about Batman Forever.
my Lord.
That was my favorite movie growing up as a kid.
Okay.
I had it on VHS. I would, the Riddler, Jim Carrey's more
Prime Jim Carrey.
serious
That's
role.
Prime Jim Carrey too.
Yes, and Tommy
That
Lee
was a
Jones.
serious role.
Well, because it wasn't really. It was like a villain role. It wasn't like his usual, like the mask and cable guy. It was like I'm a
Crouch pumped
villain.
in the back cave.
I'm just saying.
Oh, okay. I'm just throwing it out there. He gave him the.
I
gave him
know,
the
and that
push
was the best part. And then Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face, and you'd had all these A-list actors in it, and then Val Kilmer, which. Okay, so everyone's like, well, he wasn't a great Batman. No, he wasn't, but the movie was gold. It was pure gold because it introduced me in the concept of Two-Face and the Riddler, and then Robin. And
Chris
then,
O'Donnell, who was on fire at that point, Sin of a Woman. And he was coming off a lot of good hits then. People forget that how
Val Kilmer.
popular
Yes.
Chris
Val
O'Donnell
Kilmer
was.
coming off a heat too.
Yeah, again,
Chris
people forget how
O'Donnell.
popular both of those actors were coming off because we look in hindsight now. But
Yep.
yeah.
And then the whole part with a spoiler alert, if those of you haven't seen
If someone
it.
hasn't seen Batman Forever, they need to go
Just
kick
say
rocks.
it. I am just
They need
saying.
to go kick rocks.
Okay, the
Get
part
over
where Robin loses his whole family with that tragic accident that was caused by Two-Face, where Val
That
Kilmer's
was a
character.
real tearjerker.
Yeah, I thought it was sad. And then it just, that burst of like rage and energy inside for
God.
Robin, and he wants to
Please.
get Two-Face and get revenge, and then that he just he just channels that into Robin.
Right.
And then you see, the pain that Val Kilmer's Batman's going through, and then the Riddler is dealing with some shit, and it's just pure gold. And that was my whole thing about
Oh,
riddles.
God.
I like the riddles. Okay, so let's get to the George Clooney one. So I loved Batman Forever so much, and so when Batman and Robin came out, it was my first PG-13 film. In the movie theater,
We're about to get Spider-Man 3.
and I was so excited to see it. And my mom took me. She's like, "Okay, we'll go see this together."
Right,
I'm like,
right.
"Yes, we're gonna go see a PG-13 film in the theater, and it's
Right,
gonna be."
right.
And of course, it's George Clooney and Uma Thurman and all that.
Matt
And
credit cards. Alicia
Arnold.
Silverstone, shout out to her, was in it.
and
Don't forget Arnold.
Hey,
Arnold,
Mr.
yes.
Freeze.
Arnold.
You know what killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age. Yeah, that's the only thing I really remember from that. That and them flying down
Yes.
on the doors of the space shuttle missile. It's like the opening scene. Like that's the only thing I really remember was Arnold stupid jokes, the bat skates,
Yep.
and them like on the hood or doors of something like as they flew down from.
Shit
That movie was a mess.
Astronomically terrible.
It was terrible.
mess.
It was, and I will agree with you. It was awful, and that was my very first in theater disappointment because Mom, she's seen parts of Batman Forever, but she wants to do this for her daughter, and it's like a mother-daughter bonding experience. And of course, Mom's like, "Well, that was nice," and I look at Mom, and I'm like,
Yeah, she thought she was doing you a real side.
Yeah.
I look
She
at
didn't want
Mom.
to shit on your dream and be like, that movie was terrible. Oh, that was nice.
Well, and I was trying to be nice. I'm like, "Mom, I didn't really like it." She's like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, I was disappointed because it wasn't like the glory and the glamour that was Batman Forever for me. Because Batman Forever, I was like, yes, I love this movie, and then Batman and Robin just ruined it. And so when all these new, Batman movies started coming out, like The Dark Knight and The Dark Knight Rises, I was very skeptical. I was.
That's everybody. I think everybody was skeptical of Batman
for
Begins.
sure.
Just because of the history.
It's just different.
But
I'ma
Dark Knight Rises, though.
I'm going to shoot you some small bell on Batman Forever. I think there is a good movie in that movie. Just the movie we got was not a good movie. Because there was some parts in there where they were dancing around Val Kilmer's Bruce Wayne giving up Batman because he had found a woman and he felt like he had avenged his parents' death, and that movie was in there. If you watch it again, and now once I say it, you're gonna watch it and you're like, oh, I see what you're talking about. Like, it was some ethos in there to be like, should I still be Batman? Could Gotham be better if I'm no longer Batman because now I'm happy?
Exactly.
Can I, commit myself to just fixing Gotham without having to... Like, it's moments in there that tries to do it, but then it just kind of... Jerry Schumacher was like, no, just put some more fights in, put cooler Batmobile, neon city lights in Gotham. Like, but it is moments.
Who was the love
It is
interest
moments.
in that? Was that the Australian chick? Nicole Kidman.
That was the best part. That was the best part. Was the neon lights and the
No, the best part of that was Kiss from a Rose.
Yes, it
Batman
was.
Forever.
Yep.
Kiss from a Rose was on Batman Forever. I always think it was Batman Returns.
I did like that
but it's
song.
Batman Forever.
Yeah.
And the music
that's
video,
the best part about that movie.
And the music video went so well with it. Like the car driving off in the distance.
Oh, Lord.
You got any more besides Batman Forever?
No.
I mean, again, I will shoot you down that again. I do think
Forever.
there is a movie in there that is really, really good. I just don't think what they put on the screen was that good. Like, but again,
Maybe,
like we talked about,
maybe the uncut version when it's
like we talked about, Spider-Man 3 makes the list.
2025.
Here we go. Batman Forever makes her list.
Uncut.
Batman forever in my heart.
I'm gonna probably name a movie that nobody's probably even seen, probably sitting here, but my most underrated movie of all time, superhero movie of all time, is Hellboy 2.
I knew it was going to be
No.
Oh yeah, Hellboy 2 I think is a masterclass in making a superhero movie, making a sequel, and it is so many elements in that movie that makes that world feel so lived in, that is so dope. I mean, even just from the plant, creature when they kill it and its roots come up, it is so many dope moments in there. If you go to the scene where they go through the portal to like the whole monster part of town, and then like if you pause that scene and you just look, like everything is everybody in real, no CGI, real makeup, special effect, everything. Like it's in that scene, and it's an amazing movie for a superhero movie, going down from the choreographed fights to the character development to all of it. And I think it's just one of those movies that, because the concept is so foreign, because nobody's familiar with Hellboy as a comic book.
No.
I mean, I wasn't even familiar with it as a comic book. And the look of the hero is so non-appealing, it didn't connect. Because I guarantee you, if you took that exact same movie and you just put a super strong human being in that role that's not red and do that same movie, it will be a lot more popular than it is, but you just can't sell a Hellboy. Can you imagine a 5-year-old boy being like, hey, I want to get a Hellboy? The Christian evangelicals will lose their shit. So I always feel like that movie, I think the one and 2 are really, really good. I think 1's good. I think 2 is excellent. Like, it's in my top 5 of all time. I just think it's just a dope movie. And I definitely, if people watch it now with all the stuff that's come after it, I think you'll watch it now and go, oh shit, this movie is really, really good. Like,
I mean, I can't knock it because I've never seen it.
Oh yeah, you gotta see it.
I've seen little bits and pieces of it.
Yeah.
But I've never seen either one of them in its entirety, so I really can't.
I feel like the Marvel formula that we see now in love, that was the beginning.
So was it similar? Would you say it was a Guardians of the Galaxy before its time?
Yes, because it has that quirkiness to it. It has a lot of that quirkiness.
That's what it kind of reminds me of.
Right.
Like,
but I don't think people were ready for it then.
Nah.
But then when Guardians dropped, because again, same
because
argument.
we already were introduced by the other Marvel.
Right. And then
several other
you
Marvel
have
movies.
a human-looking lead, too, as well. That works. I don't know. I just think it's one of the dopest. And then my second one is always, I already kind of spoiler, gave it away, Blade 2. I think Blade 2 gets no credit.
Yeah.
For how ridiculously insane and fun that movie is.
I've never seen an entire Blade either.
So Blade 1 is good again, but Blade 2 is just ridiculously fun. It's superheroed up. The CGI doesn't hold up as well. It is funny because Blade 2 and Hellboy 2 are made by the same director, so Guillermo del Toro.
I've seen bits and pieces of Blade and Blade 2.
Oh, it's great.
But Hellboy I've seen the first Hellboy, the original Hellboy.
Right.
And like all the Hellboys after that were I just wasn't impressed. And when David Harbour came, and I love me some David Harbour.
The reboot one was god awful.
It was awful.
And he even wrote a dragon and it was still terrible.
I love
Who
David
played Hellboy? I forgot.
David Harbour.
Not
the original.
Things,
Yeah, Stranger Things.
That guy. That's a Stranger Things. The original one, Ron Perlman played.
Ron Perlman.
Yeah. Perlman's the man.
And as much as I love David Harbour,
The dude from the bike show.
Yeah.
Sons of Anarchy.
Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah.
And as much as I love David Harbour, I love you so much. I as you're a great actor and everything, but the Hellboy remake was awful. It was awful, and I was so looking forward to it because it was David Harbour, and it's like his moment after Hopper, and I'm like, oh gosh,
you know how hard it is to
what is
have
this?
a hero ride a dragon and the movie still be bad enough that nobody cares. It's almost like the Transformers where like Optimus was riding that Tyrannosaurus Rex, and the movie was so bad that like nobody can like because when you were a kid and somebody would tell you as a kid, you would watch Optimus Prime ride a Tyrannosaurus Rex on the big screen. As a kid, you would be like, this is probably the best movie of all time. And then when you watch the movie and it's like at the point that when it happens, I'm like, I don't even give a shit. Can this movie be over? And so with Hellboy, I go, like when I got into Hellboy 1 and 2, I would read some of the books and there's some part in there where he like rides a dragon, blah, blah, blah. That's really dope in the comic book. So when I saw the preview to Hellboy and I saw that in there, I'm like, oh, this is going to be good. I wish it was a part 3 to the, but I went and saw it. And as I watched this movie, I was like, same thing. I don't give a shit that you're riding a dragon. I just want the credits to roll.
Yeah.
Like I wish I could ride a dragon and leave. Because this is terrible.
That should be a topic of our next podcast. Movies that we sat through that we wish to be over.
Yes.
I have several.
I have a nice list of it. Because I always had a rule that I never walk out of a movie because I feel like some movies we've all watched where the ending is good enough that it's like, oh, I'm kind of glad I wish to stay through the whole thing.
Or if you fall asleep. I have fallen asleep through many films.
I have too.
In the theater, and I snore very loud.
I do too, and I go lie. I got a lot of times people just got, hey, your husband's nudged me to wake me up sometimes watching the movie because I didn't fall asleep. But yeah, no. So Hellboy 2, Blade 2 is on my list, and then my third one, I think kind of like how you did Unbreakable, which I'm like, damn, I'm kicking myself that I didn't think of it, but it's kind of good because you get to bring it up. My third one is in this kind of in the same ilk of Darkman, Alec Baldwin in The Shadow.
Ooh. I've never seen that.
It's a really, really good movie, and because it came out around Darkman and all that, and I think Alec Baldwin in The Shadow was more popular, but I don't, because at the time, remember that's when the Phantom had came out, which was god awful with Billy Zane, and then Darkman was out around that time in The Shadow. It was a couple of movie misses, like that was after Batman and Robin. So when The Shadow came out around that ilk, it kind of was just glossed over. Mm-hmm. But again, I challenge people, now the CGI doesn't hold up as well. Go, and it is kind of some appropriation in it too, because he kind of plays a weird kind of Genghis Khan, Asian-esque kind of conqueror at the beginning of it. So it has its flaws, but as a superhero movie, go watch it, The Shadow with Alec Baldwin. You will enjoy it. It's really good. It kind of, again, it feels like Darkman, but just with more budget.
Okay.
Really, really, really good movie because part of his thing is The Shadow. He can change his face too, a la like how Darkman can kind of. Yeah. So definitely check it out. But those are my three that I would say in that order: Hellboy 2, Blade 2, and then The Shadow with Alec Baldwin.
Fun confession. I didn't realize that it was Alec Baldwin that played the husband in Beetlejuice until recently.
Yes.
I didn't put two and two together because he looks so young. I love Beetlejuice. I love Beetlejuice also, but he looks so young.
I got an honorable mention.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it kind of goes hand in hand with Unbreakable, but Split.
Yes.
I mean, how could I name Unbreakable and not even mention Split?
I love.
But see, I don't think Split is underrated. I think everybody loves Split, and it didn't make as much money as you think. Yeah, but I think everybody across the board, like when you say Split, everybody's gonna be like, oh yeah. Like,
but I mean, when you mention, you know what I'm saying, underrated superhero movie, nobody mentions Split.
That is true. That's true.
But it's like at the beginning, you could feel the girl, like she knew, like her friends were just like, oh my god, Sarah, why are you sitting in the driver's seat? But you could just see it in her face. She knew they were screwed.
Spin it real quick.
And she fought
Split
back.
count because it's technically a super villain movie?
It would.
So would it count as a superhero movie because the superpowered person in it technically is the villain?
Yeah.
Because he had multiple personalities.
I mean, it's still connected with the whole, you know.
Yes.
Well, then do we consider Joker a superhero movie? The Joker, I guess, with Joaquin Phoenix?
That is an excellent question.
We're going to save it for another podcast. We don't want to rule out. We ain't going to give you all ideas right now. We're going to save it for another podcast.
No,
I guess we got to save that for the super villain.
Yeah. Yes, we're going to say that for. Please, again, check us out. Check out our playlist on Spotify under DJ Tunes and Corny J. Like I mentioned all the time, it's going to have the same kind of podcast quality and content, but also have songs in between these podcast segments. So check us out there as well for the newly donned No Name Nonsense podcast. So we'll be back to you real soon.